let's take a look at another speech, both the sort of the rougher version and the more refined version. And this first one, the rougher version that we're going to take a look at, is arguing the thesis that technological advancements have not made libraries unnecessary. And so once again, it'd be good if you had your evaluation form so you can go through and start looking at where you sit on this and how you would fill this out. And then I would also recommend that you flow the speech. But let's go ahead and take a look at that now.
So I very much disagree with the statement that technological progress and advancements have made libraries unnecessary. And I think that's pretty obvious because they provide excellent civic meeting places for the general population. Like if you want to meet as some sort of community group, libraries provide an excellent way to do so. I mean, they're safe, reliable, well lit. People know where they are because they're generally centrally located. So in this way, because they have such great meeting places, and because any group can sign up for them, libraries provide this sort of public resource that online and technological progress simply cannot duplicate. And in the same way, online resources might not be able to duplicate libraries' ability to give access to public and civic materials. I mean, they may so in a literal sense, but at a library, what you have is the extra bonus of having someone there, a librarian or someone else, who is there to help you find the things you need, or is there to tell you the things you need, or to tell you how to fill certain paperwork out. So if you're trying to fill out the proper tax form, if you're just going online, it might be pretty difficult to find the right tax form to fill out, or to know where to look for the right tax form, or to how to fill out the right tax form. But all these things are very easily accessible online, just because of that extra advantage of having someone else there to help you do it. But libraries are also good beyond this sort of civic space and access to civic materials point of view, in that they are a way to provide access to those who don't necessarily have this sort of advanced technology. The elderly, for example, they might benefit greatly from these public resources of libraries. I mean, I'm sure many elderly do not, keep up with an online Netflix account, nor do they have an iPad which they can download books on. So they need that sort of physical representation of this media to stay connected with both like society and culture, or just to do research or to learn. So in this way, technology and technological advancements cannot replace libraries. And in the same way, libraries provide a great tool for the poor or the homeless who might not have access to this technology. It helps them retain access not only in maybe looking for online job postings, or perhaps to look for the locations of food banks, but they're just a great place to meet up, in a place where they know that they are on equal footing in society. So in that way, libraries will always be necessary, and technological progress will never fully eclipse the need for such public resources.
So there were a lot of things in this that were not terrible, that were not poor, but there was a lot in there that was just sort of satisfactory. And when combined, it results in certainly a low-energy speech and a not particularly compelling speech. So let's go ahead and move through this from top to bottom. So the introduction, fine. I guess I kind of know more or less what the main points are, although I've got to do a fair bit of work to figure out exactly what they are. But as we move into these main points, my flow here, and you'll see, my flow between the The bad speech and the good speech actually look very similar. But it's not so much presence or absence, that stuff is there, but more how he is discussing it, how he is performing that arrangement or discussing that evidence. And certainly the overall thing that I take away from this is it feels low energy and it feels like all the points are just kind of wandering. They're just sort of floating. So when we look at his evidence, the evidence wanders. So he'll start in a discussion of it, but it's not really tied directly to that claim. It's not being driven forward by that claim. He's not relating it back to that claim. So the evidence is just sort of there. And once again, it's as if we as audience members are being asked to figure out the relationship between the evidence and the claim. We're being asked to figure out the warrant, why he's talking about this evidence here and at that point. And that's not the audience's job, that's the speaker's job. Certainly we feel that in the arrangement as well. Some of this is delivery, but overall it just felt like it was wandering. So, we've talked about how the evidence and the claim relate to one another and how you're getting into that point and how you're getting out of that point, state it, explain it, prove it, conclude it. But that's not happening in these points. It's just sort of he's discussing the claim and maybe he discusses some evidence and discusses some evidence over there, but there doesn't seem to be the sense of forward movement. Delivery. A lot of issues here. There's certainly some ethos issues. It is very low energy. Right? He doesn't seem particularly enthused or interested in what he's talking about, and barely awake. But again, I've asked him to sort of demonstrate what this would look like, so we'll see him as a better speaker in a moment. But there's also some style choices, just in the sense that he's saying, well, anybody would know this, or it seems obvious to me. And so those are just sort of vocabulary choices that may not need to be made at that particular point. Then we get to the ums. So certainly he has a lot of ums. And as we've discussed, that's not necessarily a deadly thing. But these ums are not working. And it's because what's happening, these ums are falling in the middle of those sentences and phrases, and those phrases are just being stretched to extreme lengths that it's very hard to follow along with. It's hard to remember what this sentence was about, or it's hard to remember how this sentence relates to the sentence before it. This doesn't have a sense of chunks, right? You can't really feel a discrete difference between 1A and 2A, or they don't feel like they have sort of a beginning, middle, and end as a subclaim. And a lot of that is just because he's got low energy. He's sort of everything. All the sentences sound the same, so one doesn't sound higher or lower importance, the claim versus the evidence. But also we've got these ums, so many, so loud, breaking up the phrases in ways that makes it very difficult to listen to. So if I'm going through here, invention under main points. Well, the main points are there. What I'm looking at is fine on the page. So I could say probably satisfactory there. Invention in terms of support, well, I've got good support here. I don't think he discusses it particularly well. I think the evidence in and of itself is fine, but he does not explain how the evidence supported the main points as clearly and effectively as he could. I've got this pegged on here as satisfactory. I could see it being either satisfactory or poor. Somewhere it's in between those two, at the very least. Arrangement, well, poor in the sense that this thing doesn't have a sense of forward momentum. I don't get a sense of distinction between these elements. Arrangement in terms of I know where he is fine, but arrangement in terms of feeling the breaks between 1A and 2A and 1A and 1B is not there. Delivery, again, I would say that's satisfactory at best, but probably more likely to be poor. Just in the sense that the ums, ers, and ahs actually were a distraction here and did significantly harm the clarity of the speech. And I'd say that's a rare occurrence, and he thankfully performed that well for us. So now let's go ahead and leave this one and take a look at a Walker doing a speech as he normally will in a much more refined way.